Hey folks, Nick here from another BookTube channel. Today, taking a look at Weirdo #1. Weirdo is a magazine published by Last Gasp that started in 1981. This was edited and contributed to by Robert Crumb. He, I believe, was the editor on the first 10 issues, and then he handed the reins off to Pete Bagg, who then in turn handed it off to Aileen Kaminsky Crumb for the remainder of the series. This was, um, f- to some people, Weirdo magazine was like a counterpoint to Art Spiegelman's Raw. Uh, that one was kind of seen as more highbrow, like bringing in cartoonists, either from the underground and bringing them up into more upper class prominence, or bringing over international cartoonists that the United States wasn't super familiar with, and giving them an outlet to just show what they can do. Robert Crumb created Weirdo as a safe space for the outsiders of even the underground comic world to be able to contribute. So those people who were considered weirdos, even by the weirdos standards, were given space here. Um, this is an interesting book. I think it has some good things in it. I think it has some things that don't work so well. First, the cover, though, I do think is great. It's a Robert Crumb cover. I think Crumb did the covers for every issue. We have a introduction to the character Etoyan Sherdblue. I had to Google that because I was like, there's got to be significance to that name. And from what I found, this is a nonsense string of letters that was a common typographical error that you would see in like the early 20th century typecasting. I think so. I'm not super caught up on the history of typesetting and all that, but back when something called hot type was the means of printing, it was a common error. You would see it printed in newspapers once in a while. If you go on Wikipedia, you can see actual examples from like the New York Times from like 1903 or something, where this string of letters would just be visible in a line for no reason. So I think a string of nonsense letters that was commonly known actually makes perfect sense for Robert Crumb to use that as a character name. He also wasn't the only one that's done so. I think I saw some other examples on that Wikipedia article as well of other cartoonists that have used it. And the actual cover itself, I think an obvious reference to Kilroy Was Here, the classic graffiti that became super popular during World War II, of the guy with a long nose peeking over a fence, except Robert Crumb has updated it to be his deranged, neurotic kind of character, Etoyan. Also, the border here, these borders are drawn by Crumb. They're different for every issue, and as proof, here's Weirdo #3, which I haven't had a chance to read yet, but yeah, he did that. This border was inspired by Harvey Kurtzman's, oh my god, the name of the why is it escaping me? Is it Harumph? Humbug is Humbug. Why would Harumph? It was inspired by Harvey Kurtzman's Humbug, where Crumb saw he used this border on one of the covers and he loved it. So all right, let's jump into this thing. The first thing to note is there is a message from the editor here by Robert Crumb. And in this message from the editor, he's talking about how since we're entering a more conservative era with the Republicans taking over the government, a magazine like this is more important than ever to get our, to push the boundaries and break free from that conservatism, but also, most importantly, in big bold letters down here, make money. There's also, so this was something that I had some trouble with first reading this through. There's a fake ad here for a professor. This is Terry Zwigoff, who is claimed to have a BA in psychology, who is going to offer you um, advice on your love life. I think it's a fake ad, but it's also side by side with these, which are real ads, like just classic comic advertisements. and I was expecting all of these to be fake. Like when I saw this, I thought, oh, okay, so we're gonna do that thing where we include a bunch of fake ads to like keep up the appearance. But no, there are actual real ads in here, and that kind of threw me off a little bit. Um, we've got our story with Etoyan Shurdlu called TV Blues, and right away we see the terrific cartooning of Robert Crumb. This guy Etoyan is flipping through the TV, and he's getting nothing but commercials, which is driving him nuts. We've all been there, and it's what's funny is we kind of escaped this briefly. There was a brief window when streaming first started where we got away from all these commercials that were bothering us, so we could only have our shows. But now all our streaming services are back to just having commercials all the time, and you have to pay extra to get away from them. So we got some growth. We escaped this, and then we went right back into it. He's flipping through the channels, and he finds a program. It's a Asian program. I don't know if it's It's supposed to be Japanese. It's just described as a foreign language, and in typical Crumb fashion, he'll also use some slurs to denote who he's talking about here. The character uses some slurs. Robert Crumb has never been shy about just writing what he believes is like important to write, important to draw, and not shying away from bad words, naughty words, words that'll get you in trouble. He's always considered himself kind of just like a conduit. Like, I get these ideas, these are in my subconscious, and that means they're probably in yours too. So I just get them out there, and you do with it whatever you want to do with it. You do with it, and that's of course landed him in hot water, time and time again in his career. But this program has some sexy ladies on it, and this guy's getting really worked up watching it. His son comes in to check, what's going on here. He throws him out of the room. He flips back to the station where he's hoping, where the sexy ladies have gone away. But so now that this host is just monologuing, but it's in, probably Japanese. So Crumb is just giving us gibberish lettering here, which I think is super fun. He really commits because he's providing these big blocks of gibberish. He's not just like doing parentheses in Japanese, like it's not taking any shortcuts. Really putting like multiple word bubbles, like conversations going on. And I love the posture of this character and the body language when he hangs his head just in complete defeat. Just that really long neck connecting to his back. Like there's just so much conveyed in that kind of posture, and that's something that is revisited later in the issue as well. That kind of defeated pose. The women do eventually show back up and start dancing with the host, much to Etoyan's delight. He tries to pull the lady out of the TV screen. He ends up accidentally getting pulled in himself, and he becomes the butt of the joke. And this is actually my favorite part of this issue, is the host makes fun of his race. We can't tell what they're saying, but he pulls like his eyes apart and like so that he's got wide eyes like he does, and that's contrasted with Etoyan calling him a bad name before, making fun of his race essentially, and that to me, that's just Crumb saying we all do it to each other. Like, it exists. It's not just Americans that can be like this. It's also a part of other cultures' humor as well to make fun of us. That's the type of stuff. Again, that's the stuff that leads to discussion, that leads to the canceling of Robert Crumb. That's why people call him a Republican. It's why people call him a Democrat, because they don't know what he is, because he does stuff like this, which is just people don't know how to put a label on him. And people love to put labels on other people nowadays on the internet. Fantastic. Again, the movement. He gets pulled into a dance at Etoyan with this woman, and she's just flinging him around. And it really conveys. It really comes across that he is being swung with momentum. the extreme body contortion. This is something Crumb is known for. Just like leaning back, knee at a 90-degree angle. You see that all the time in a Crumb cartoon. It's great. It's so much fun. And he it continues on. He's getting spun around. I love this whirlpool effect where it's not just a circle like here. It's 3D, so it's literally like a vortex getting sucked in. And he gets spun out, thrown out into the living room. He's been through the ringer, and he just hands off the remote to his wife and son. Say, "Here, watch whatever you want. I'm done." And the background hatching is also something that Crumb is known for, just filling it in with this screen door hatching, leaving light where necessary, but over here it's just completely darkened behind him, creating that depth, creating gray value on the background characters to put them in the background, keep Etoyon popping in the front. What a nasty looking guy! What a nasty little critter he is. His big old nose with his wart on it. Then we've got a Fumetti story. Fumetti is a storytelling device in which photographs are used instead of drawings, basically. So they're sequential photographs. This is by Stomp Ganos. I don't know who that is. I do not like Fumetti. I am curious if anybody likes Fumetti, like earnestly, like as a storytelling device. Do you like Fumetti, or do you like the like the uniqueness? There's like or the intrigue of like, hey, look at this like terrible thing that people tried in the 80s. I know that Marvel has a Fumetti book that I see pop up once in a while. I don't know if it's considered valuable to people, but usually it's good for somebody to pick it up just like as a novelty. But do you like it for its storytelling, or do you like it as the novelty? As a novelty, it's somewhat interesting. As a storytelling device, I think it's awful. I hate Fumetti. It just doesn't work for me. And I know like Jack Kirby, it appeared in Jack Kirby's Spirit World too. So it was something that was toyed with and played with, and I think has kind of rightfully gone by the wayside. This was a weird section. I don't actually know what to make of this. I'm going to be honest. I saw all of this really small text, and I said absolutely not. So I just kind of flipped through, and I appreciated some interesting drawings, which are very, very interesting. This one caught my eye of this Charles Manson. I read the corresponding text for that one, but I don't have a lot of insight to offer here. If you've read this issue and you've read this article, this particular piece, and there's something really interesting about it, go ahead, leave it in the comments. Let's make this a collaborative effort, because I couldn't be bothered to read all those tiny words. The Witch of Malegum by Pete Bruegel. Bruegel. I'm actually gonna jump in here because I didn't look up this drawing or Pete Bruegel before I actually recorded this, and I really should have. Apparently, Peter Bruegel the Elder was an artist in the 1500s, and he was known for drawing like peasants and landscapes, which was not the norm at the time. Like, he didn't really do typical portrait drawing. I'm trying to think of how that fits into the premise of a Weirdo comic, Weirdo magazine, and I guess it's what I'm coming up with is, I think Crumb's pointing out the historical instances in which somebody pushed the boundaries of art, drew something that was not the accepted societal norm. In this case, a bunch of peasants, doing whatever, and becoming popular because of it or in spite of it. So interesting little historical nugget there. Probably worth a little bit deeper dive into of research. So I just gave you the bare minimum here. Sorry. This I didn't care for at all. So this is by Bruce Duncan, who I think was a big influence on this magazine getting created in the first place. This is the part of like underground comics that doesn't connect with me, is when it gets just like oddly sexual, especially when children are involved. I don't care about your counterculture bullshit. It is disgusting to have like stuff like this to me, of like this little girl who's obviously meant to be a baby, but like she has breasts and she's got like her butt out and is taking her temperature with a thermometer, and it's like sexualized. Like, no, this is a big old no from me. Um, and this is where like something like this like falls apart to me. I don't like the cartooning either. So big miss from me. It continues onto this page. A lot of weird sexual stuff. Don't care for it. The Beautiful Experience. This is more Crumb pieces. The conceit of this is that all these women have tried the weirdo like beauty experience, or the weirdo face counselors giving these women makeovers, and the idea is just taking these relatively plain looking women and turning them into weirdos. Great side by sides. I see something like this right here, and I can't help but think of Ed Piskor and like what he would do on Red Room, with all like going into the leather strap, going into the eyelid, and just holding it apart, and just like the bondage of it. That's some sick shit. I'm sure Ed Ed saw that and liked it a lot. We're back to Fumetti here. Another Fumetti story. I think I read online that the Fumetti sequences in here were wildly unpopular, and they discontinue them at a certain point, and they've also not been reprinted, like when Weirdo gets collected or something like that. You get a little cameo from Robert Crumb himself there. I'm sure he loved doing that photo shoot. And then we have High Times interviews Robert Crumb by Robert Crumb. This is set up as it's the title implies. He's sitting down to do an interview with the magazine High Times, and the interviewer like really lays into him. And Robert Crumb begins the interview by saying like he's never read High Times. He looks at one issue and he's just like, I've seen worse, but nothing special. And so this guy lays into Robert Crumb about how his best days are behind him in the 70s, that he's a flash in the pan, a burnout. And what really works in this comic is Crumb's body language. You could see his mood changing from panel to panel, of like being almost angry, realizing what's about to happen, and then getting nervous, again, getting defeated. There's that posture again of just head completely in lap, trying to get away, sweating, nervous. It culminates with Crumb getting angry enough to try to attack this guy, and getting really upset. But the guy is much bigger and stronger than him, knocks him out immediately, and it ends with the cool guy with the mustache and the exposed chest taking this girl out on a date. Classic Crumb self-effacing stuff. I love when Crumb gets self-effacing. That's my favorite Crumb stuff. The other more controversial stuff, I appreciate the existence of it. It doesn't always work for me. It's not my thing. But his self-effacing stuff I think is great. The final piece in the magazine is this, again, long fake like ad or pitch for what's called the Church of the Subgenius, basically making an appeal to people who feel like weirdos, who feel strange, who consider themselves not real members of society. So it's telling them like, join the Church of the Subgenius. You'll learn how to have intercourse with a beautiful living girl, things like that. Just like relax in the safety of your own delusions, pull the wool over your own eyes. It's even got a fake application on the back and like a fake address. And that's why when I saw this final ad on the back cover, I thought we were continuing with the fake stuff. But no, this is just an actual ad for a blackhead remover. So, and a great back cover as well by Robert Crumb for Weirdo Jeans. She's frothing at the mouth for some reason. Anyway, that's Weirdo Magazine #1. Some interesting stuff, some stuff that doesn't work for me as well, but always interesting to look at some Crumb artwork. Let me know your thoughts on Weirdo #1. Let me know if there's anything that I missed that was worth talking about. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today, but now it's time to get back to reading.